that conversation there. That we're going. First of all, look forward to that, and so that's going to be happening on at the Apollo on Monday, and so I'm going to be in New York, and so a little busy schedule. Also, next week I'll be celebrating my 47th birthday. I won't be with you guys though, because on the 12th I will be out. My wife is speaking on a cruise, and it's a 4-day cruise, and so we're going to be on that. So I'll be hanging out with her, and so we're looking forward to that, and so that's what we got going on, and so it's all good, all good. So again, lots of things going on. Y'all know I keep it moving. You know I keep it moving, and so we're gonna have all kind of different things happening. So yeah, so you know what? That's the deal, y'all. I like to keep it busy. I like to keep it busy. I like to stay busy, and you know that's what we're gonna do. So on today's show, I'm going to share with you the interview that I did um, with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who was running for president of the United States on the Republican side. We had a very good conversation. So again, I'm going to play that for you guys, and I want to get your thoughts because it's very interesting. There were people who listened to it this morning, and some folks, man, they were mad. I can't believe you did that. Well, why are you talking to Rand Paul? It is my intention. It's my intention to talk to every presidential candidate. Doesn't matter which one. I want to talk to all of them because I have a very fundamental belief that if you want to be president of the United States, you must talk to all constituents. I have a fundamental belief that candidates who are unwilling to talk to everyone shouldn't be president. I don't care if African Americans do not vote in huge numbers for Republicans. If you are going to be president of the United States, then you are going to be president of all people. Of all people. And so that's why I believe those candidates should talk to us. That's why those candidates should meet with us, should talk to Black media, Hispanic media. Pure and simple. Pure and simple. I just don't believe we should be left out of the conversation. I believe it's wrong when I see folks like Donald Trump denying an opportunity for Telemundo and others covering his rallies. No, I don't care if you don't like their coverage. You should be convincing as to what your policies are. So we come back, we will hear from Rand Paul. We will hear what he has to say running for president of the United States. This is the Roland Martin Show. Back in a moment.
no place I'd rather be than with you. Yeah, loving you. Well. Day will make a way for night. All we'll need is candlelight and a song. Yeah, soft and long. Well, glad to be here alone with a lover like no other. Sad to see a new horizon slowly coming into view. Yeah, I wanna be living for the love of you. Oh, yes, I am.
He's really focused the issue on criminal justice and other issues. He's one of the few candidates who actually has. I see. When is Kansas gonna stop complaining about these debates? Running for public nomination for specifically about issues that you care about. Here's my discussion with Senator Rand Paul.
Morning comes, feels good to me. Yeah, my love and you. Well,
it's time to. Hey folks, welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. Glad to be with you on this day. As I said, I had a conversation with Senator Rand Paul about running for president of the United States. Here is my conversation with him. So I want to get your thoughts as well. Take a listen. I want all you to listen and then give me a call, 844-736-7474. And I want to hear what you got to say. All right, here we go. He is focused on a number of critical issues, including criminal justice reform. And so he is here. First appearance right here on News One Now on TV One. I'm certainly glad to have you here, Senator Paul. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get right into it. First off, I want to get the policy. When is Kansas going to stop complaining about these debates? I mean, my goodness, it's
all I would ask is, some people say, no, we want Republican moderators. I think that's crazy, but I think it is not too much to ask that we have objective moderators. And I've done a lot of interviews with probably almost every national person on television, and I can tell you 10 right off the bat that I cannot tell whether they're a Republican or a Democrat. That's who I think ought to be moderating. There are many people who are partisans on both sides, but they really shouldn't be moderating.
Well, some folks actually care about issues as opposed to entertainment value. I think what you've seen is a lot of entertainment back and forth.
I think you're right. And I think the thing is like, for example, I had to work very hard to get 30 seconds in on my tax plan. But there's like 6 tax plans. We should let each candidate present at least a minute about what their tax plan's about and what are the contrasts between the two. Like, if you're Rubio, what's the Rubio tax plan? What's the Paul tax plan? What's the Bush tax plan? I think you could watch for 2 hours and not know what anybody's tax plan was by the time you got to the end of the 2 hours.
Right. Of course, we hear about comic books and all kind of other stuff like that, like fantasy football, which is hilarious to me. Unbelievable to me. So the policy, I think, is critically important. And so what I keep getting from African Americans is I'm not hearing what actually matters to us. And so what's interesting to me is in asking you, one of the things that is major entrepreneurship for African Americans. Black women start businesses at a faster rate than anybody else. In 2013, Wall Street Journal, actually 2014, Wall Street Journal had a huge piece showing that African Americans got less than 2% or $23.09 billion in small business loans. 8.2% in the last year of President Bush. If you're president, how will you change that to ensure that capital is flowing to African Americans who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to grow businesses, who want scale, but who simply can't get dollars, right?
As far as government money, I think it has to be equal protection under the law in the sense that everybody should have equal access to it. And we need to be very certain that it is dispersed in that way, that there isn't any, even if it's not overt, that there's not a racial outcome to the way money is dispersed. But above and beyond that, something that's a much bigger pie of money is something that I want to do called economic freedom zones. And that is to leave extraordinary amounts of money in communities and encourage businesses to go to those communities, hire people, and have businesses there. Now, it's easier said than done. Everybody's been saying this for decades. But what I would do is do it in a dramatic fashion. So the south side of Chicago is pretty poor. I was down in Inglewood on the most dangerous corner of probably in America, right across from the O-Block housing project. And I went around with a local minister and we talked about how we rejuvenate that. My plan would leave $3 billion in the south side of Chicago. I wouldn't send it to the Chicago government. I wouldn't send it to the federal government. I would just simply leave it in that area. And so businesses that are already there will thrive. That's the best way to create jobs. If you're already in the south side of Chicago and you have 20 employees, the best way to make a job is to let you get 30 employees. Starting from scratch is always harder. But I think we'd get both. And then we would encourage people who move in to have a very low tax rate. So if you're the vice president of a bank in the suburbs of Chicago, you're going to pay 30% or whatever the income tax is. But if you move to the south side of Chicago and you'll sit there and live there and have your bank in the south side of Chicago, you pay 5% income tax. I want it so dramatic that everybody wants to move there. That people want to actually move to that area and say, gosh, I can make twice as much money here. Money counts. Money talks.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, one of the reasons also folks not able to get loans because it's tied to housing. 53% of Black wealth wiped out because of the home foreclosure crisis in this country. I've been very critical of the president's housing policies because I believe they have not properly impacted those who are most in need. What is your housing plan? Because we know most Americans, their wealth comes from owning their home, and that money that Black folks lost, some will say it will take 2 generations just to recoup that money that was lost.
No, I think that's a big point. You develop capital and you get richer generation to generation when you have a house. I mean, that's where most Americans' capital is tied up. One of the things that I think in the minority community that is really bad is that you don't have inheritance in the sense that many people don't. But the one thing you do is you pay everybody, every working class person pays payroll tax their whole life, and it builds up. But you don't get any of it. Your kids don't get any of it because there's no inheritability to Social Security. And I know this may be controversial, but I would individualize Social Security accounts. So your name's on it, and just the same way you'd type in your number for a 401k, you'd type in your number, and in your Social Security account, you'd say, wow, I put in $100,000 over my working career, and if I die at 65, my kids get it, and then there'd be some inheritability and we'd develop wealth over time. But we have a system now that it's gotten too involved in so many things that there's not enough money even for those on Social Security.
So you turn 65. So let's say you look at the death rates of Black men younger than anyone else. And so under your plan, let's say if someone dies at the age of 60, right. So you're saying that that's essentially money that's accrued, and then that money would then go to a family member when you pass away.
Exactly, be inheritable, because what happens now is initially Social Security worked on everybody dying young. Now there is a racial disparity in death. Black men do die younger than the average population for the at whole, and so I think it is a real problem, and you would have some capital begin to form generation to generation. But the bottom line is we have to create a more opportunity in society. And that's why I've said, see, we've had this problem, and unfortunately we've made it a partisan problem between Republicans and Democrats, but we've had enormous amounts of poverty in our cities for decade upon decade. In the 60s, we started the war on poverty, but I think we still have enormous amounts of poverty, enormous amounts of incarceration, drug problem, back into prison, out of prison, and there's, in some ways, not a lot of hope. And I think we ought to, at the very least, talk about something new and different than what we've tried in the past. And to me, that's creative, enormous incentives, not little incentives, not a little tax credit here or there, but enormous incentives that people would want to move back into the city or into the city and bring their business into the city.
But you also have tremendous poverty in rural America.
You do.
And how do you see getting rural whites to realize that they're in the same economic and educational condition right. as Blacks and Latinos in inner cities? And as I always say, broke is broke.
We have the contrast in my state, for example. We have a large rural white population in eastern Kentucky that lives in poverty, and you've heard of Appalachian programs. We've had this for decade after decade. But just like our inner city programs, they haven't necessarily worked. Some of it's harder to grasp. It's sort of not as tangible, but it's education. And education is real and makes a difference. But I'll give you a contrast. I grew up and went to public schools in Texas, in sort of a suburb, richer sort of suburb.
Not suburb. I got you.
But I had anatomy and physiology, physics, calculus, all in high school. I had a great high school, probably rivals private high schools. So public high schools can be good, but I've also visited parts of our cities, most of our cities, but probably also rural America as well, where they don't teach any of those courses there, and 50% of the people drop out. I would give every kid in America the choice to go to whatever school they want. So if you live on the south side of Chicago and there's a rich neighborhood that's about 15 miles from you, and your mom or your dad will drive you out there, I'd let you take your money and go. And I'd say it's yours. It's a voucher, and you can go wherever you want. Then what would happen is competition makes us all better.
Now, is that vouchers for all students, or would it be based upon income?
I do it for all, but I mean, what they've done in some states, in Florida and other states, is to start out with doing it, and I'd vote for any of it. So if they started and they said, oh, we're only going to do it for underprivileged kids, I'd vote for that too. But really, I think choice makes us all better and will make all the schools better. The other thing that we need, and there's a miracle waiting to happen, but the educational establishment is in the way. The miracle is the internet. And we think, oh, we'll give every kid a smartphone, they'll be smart. And that isn't it. Connect every kid to a great teacher. So let's say I live in a little tiny town in, let's say, Alabama, 100 miles away from any place, and there's only 500 people there, and there is no calculus teacher. The internet should connect me. If it turns out that there's a bright kid in that school that wants to do advanced science or math, we should connect them to a teacher in Boston. See, the internet should connect you around the world to the world's greatest teachers. And then I'd also pay some of the world's greatest teachers like NFL players or NBA players, because I'd find them and I'd connect them to every kid. The one teacher might be giving a lecture that, say, the introductory lecture in calculus. She or he is so good at it that everyone in the whole country may listen to that introductory lecture because it's so good. You can still have a local teacher, but you connect some of the best teachers in the world. That is a miracle waiting to happen. It'll bring great education to every kid in every school everywhere. And then you have to have some other things, discipline, keep drugs out of school, things like that. But there's a miracle waiting to happen in education. But I think people who live in poor circumstances aren't getting the same education that kids that live in a better area.
Let's talk a little. All right, then. So I'm going to hold it right there. I'm going to go to a break. We come back. I'm going to play the remaining 5 minutes of my interview with Rand Paul. I want to get your thoughts as well. All of that next on the Roland Martin Show.
Call 844-736-7474 and talk to Roland Martin next. We'll be back.
Can you tell if the surfaces in this kitchen are crawling with bacteria that could cause chronic arthritis? Listen. Can't, can you? You can't see it either. Wash surfaces, utensils, and hands frequently with soapy water while preparing food, especially when handling raw meats or eggs. Raw food may contain bacteria that can make you very sick, or worse. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year, and roughly 3,000 will die. But you can keep your family safer by cleaning with soap and water as you go. Learn more about this and other important information. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. That's foodsafety.gov. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going? I'm having a stroke. Are you going to shake my hand or what? I'm having a stroke. Wow, you're not even moving your arm. I'm having a stroke. Are you okay? I'm having a stroke. Your face looks weird too. I'm having a stroke. Are you having a seizure or something? I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke. Fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
I'm so in love with you. Whatever you want to do is all right with me. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new. I want to spend my life with you. You say, baby, since we've been together, ooh, loving you forever is what I need. Let me be the one you come to. I'll never be untrue. Oh, baby, let's stay together. Loving you well, and the good and bad, happy and sad. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that time's a good.
It's time to get back to the issues that matter. Let's get back to the Roland Martin Show.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. I want to finish my interview that I did with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who's running for president of the United States. And when I am done playing that, I want to get your thoughts, your perspective, what he had to say during our conversation. So back to the interview. Movement. I believe what you've seen is this movement force a level of transparency and change we have not seen when it comes to law enforcement ever. 40 new laws passed in 24 states. You see NYPD all of a sudden cops have to now mark excessive force. You're seeing body cameras, yet the movement is constantly being attacked, I think, because frankly they're forcing change.
Well, you know, I'm for most of the change, and I'm for most of the things they have supported. I'm for the, the cameras. I worked with Congressman Scott on reports of deaths in the hands of custody. I thought the Eric Garner case and all of these other cases were just real tragedies. The only thing I've hesitated with making it all about race is when you look at the war on drugs and you look at incarceration, there is a racial disparity, no question, and it is a problem we need to address. But when you look at policing, and like I read one the other day, someone was thrown to the ground and treated, I think, awfully. But one of the policemen was black. Police chief was black. So if we make it all about race, we're going to mistake the problem. What we really need to understand.
Police is blue, because you're right. I mean, there are. You have police officers who are African American. There's some in the Freddie Gray case in Baltimore who were indicted. Right. So that's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily think Black Lives Matter is about white cops versus African Americans, although you do hear that. Right. I think it's a question literally of just law enforcement, this culture, this attitude where it's protect blue versus protect and serve. A lot of times protect themselves versus the public.
Right, but what I would say is it's police behavior but there are a lot of good police too.
Yes.
And then there's also it's policymakers. So I tend to like, it's sort of like when something happens bad in war, the soldier's responsible maybe for something that happens, but really the policymakers responsible for putting in that position. Eric Garner, for example, the mayor wants tax money and they don't want you selling illegal cigarettes, a huge financial thing. Mayor de Blasio has been a big part of that, but he doesn't want to accept the blame for his policy. He instructed the police to take people down. Now, he didn't instruct them to kill Eric Garner, but he did instruct the police, we're going to take down, we have a zero tolerance for cigarettes. He didn't have any cigarettes on him. It was ridiculous. And nobody deserves to die that way. But the thing is I blame the policymakers who are like, let's have the police stopping rapists and murderers. And some guy wants to sell a cigarette on the corner, let's give him a ticket. You know, if it has to be against the law, give him a ticket. If he comes back, give him another ticket. If it comes back, I mean, there was a lot of other ways to treat this other than saying we're going to have a zero tolerance and we're going to use force against somebody selling cigarettes on the sidewalk.
But do you believe that the Black Lives Matter movement has forced the kind of accountability that has been positive for the country?
They're drawing attention to issues that need to be drawn to. And like I say, I support almost all the criminal justice. The president and I don't get along on very many issues, but we're in complete agreement on the criminal justice. And when the president's trying to fix some of the crack versus powder cocaine disparity in jail.
So it's still 18-1.
Yeah, I'm supportive not only of what he's doing, he's releasing some of the people who are nonviolent criminals, but I would change it to 1-to-1. And in fact, when the criminal justice bill comes forward, they don't have it in the current bill. I will try to amend that. I'm also going to try to make some felonies to misdemeanors. I'm also going to try to allow some of the expunging of records that Senator Booker and I have worked on. So there's a lot of good stuff. The only thing I don't want to do is, and I think it misunderstands, because I have a lot of policemen that protect me. Many of them are African American, and I ask them about it, and they don't want to make it about race because obviously they're black, majority black. It's what we have to do is change the law about the war on drugs. There's no reason we should be arresting everybody for marijuana, because what happens is the police go into the inner city and then they're arresting. So the arrests end up being 15 black kids to 1 white kid. But the surveys show white kids smoking pot just as much as black kids. But the police are always in that area. And it isn't overtly say, oh, let's go round up black kids. It just happens they're in a poor neighborhood and there's a higher percentage of African Americans there.
Last question for you. You have been demanding that the Republican Party do more in terms of reaching out to African Americans. I've been saying Republicans got to stop being afraid to talk to black people, visit with black folks. Should there be a Republican forum, town hall, if you will, that specifically is speaking to issues of African Americans, of these various candidates, to talk about these issues that frankly you're not going to be brought up by CNN, MSNBC, or Fox?
If we were smart, we would do it. And I've been trying to go places because you know what I find all the time? People aren't jumping up and down and saying, when I go to the south side of Chicago, not everybody's coming up and saying, hey, I want to be a Republican. But you know, they're saying, you know what, we want somebody to compete for our vote. The Democrats take us for granted and they never come down here anyway because they know we're all going to vote Democrat. We're not sure we're a Republican yet, but we do want to hear some new and different ideas and we want people to compete for our vote. I hear the same thing in Louisville and I'm excited about it. You know, I might go from 5% to 10% of the African American vote, or maybe 20%, but I want to make inroads because really I want to represent, particularly in my state, everyone.
All right, then. Well, Senator Rand Paul, we appreciate it. Sure, come back anytime. Our show is, unlike other shows, I have no problem talking to Republicans and hearing various ideas and having a nice conversation and debate. Sure, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks, that was my interview with Rand Paul. So I want to get your thoughts. Give me a call. 844-736-7474, 844-736-7474. See, here's what's interesting. I had my panel afterwards, and there were people who were, you know, oh, no, suspect. But I said, stop. Because in fact, what happened was what was going on, so I had 3 panelists, and they were commenting on everything. I said, stop. Listen to what he is saying. The reason I said listen to what he is saying is because if you're busy commenting on one thing, you might miss another. You might miss another. And what happens is we need to listen to what somebody is saying, because you might disagree with 8 things that Senator Rand Paul has to say, but you might agree with 2. So you've now found common ground on 2 of those issues. Somebody said, he'll never be president. but he's a United States Senator right now. He is one of 100. So even if he loses, Senator Rand Paul is still in the U.S. Senate, which means he can still impact public policy, which means that even while he is running, he could impact somebody who's a governor or a state rep, a state senator, or a member of the U.S. House. Somebody's asking me on Periscope, but what is he doing? You didn't hear. You heard him say, if that criminal justice reform bill comes to the Senate and does not have anything that reduces the crack cocaine and powder cocaine disparity from 18 to 1 to 1 to 1, he said, I'm going to try to change that. I'm going to try to amend the bill. That's what he said. Now I got somebody saying, oh, be careful who you trust. Well, guess what? Do you realize that there are Democrats who are supporting mandatory minimums? Uh-oh. Do you realize that while they are saying one thing, they're doing another? See, this is why I don't get caught up in this whole deal of, oh, be careful who you trust. Because we've gotten screwed by Democrats. See, it's politics. He said, I agree with most of the things of Black Lives Matter. Okay. I'm not expecting somebody to agree with all things. But if I could find somebody who says on this issue, I'm down with it, man, let's roll. See, y'all don't understand. I'm sick and tired of this whole idea of here's this one, it's like, man, I ain't supporting them. See, no. Folks say, man, Roland, I can't believe you had them Republicans on your show. Got a woman saying, put his words into action. He is. He's been working on a particular bill with Senator Cory Booker. See, again, though, do y'all find it interesting that you got some folk, they're not going to tell Democrats put their words into action, they'll take their words? Let me say it again. There are some Democrats who we don't demand put your words into action. There are some Democrats we accept their word and we turn right around and vote for them. Here's what I realize. There are Republican governors in more than 30 states in America. There are Republicans who run the House and the Senate in your state. Tell you something right now. I got to work with whoever's in office. And you know what I noticed? No other special interest group says we're going to ignore talking to you. Because they understand the game. This is the Roland Martin Show. Give me a call, 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. This is the Roland Martin Show. Back in a moment.
Call 844-736-7474 and talk to Roland Martin next. We'll be back.
We got adopted. Over the years, I came to know the full story of what really happened, and she has since she was 17. I know that she wanted us to have a better life. The way she saw things going, it wasn't a good environment to raise a kid. The fact that she did that just shows how strong of a woman my mother is. just be given a chance to be who she wanted us to be, that means a lot to me. And I thank her each and every day for it. I wouldn't be the person who I am today. And I like the person I am today. I've learned that love is what makes people who they are. I've learned that love helps you make the hard decisions. Without love, you can't know nurturing. And without nurturing, you can't grow. And I knew I was loved and I was part of a family, so that was what's important to me.
For more information, visit ichooseadoption.org.
I'm Crystal. And I'm Christopher. And our mom chose adoption.
1, 2, 3, 4. Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Father, we don't need to escalate. Oh, not an answer for only love can conquer. You know we got to find a way to bring some love in. Oh, yeah. Take it nice, take it soft. Punish me with brutality. Talk to me, honey, so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Woo! Come on, man. Woo!
It's time to get back to the issues that matter. Let's get back to the Roland Martin Show.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. Number to call is 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. I want to get your thoughts about my interview there with Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, who is running for the Republican presidential nomination. What do you make of what he had to say? What do you make of his thoughts about Black Lives Matter? He also talked about vouchers for education. Your thoughts about that? Love to hear you as well. 844-736-7474. I mean, this is, again, everybody's running for president. They are all running for president. They are all trying to be president. So they should be talking to all Americans. Period. All Americans. And the only way that happens is if we also force the conversation. So love to get your thoughts on what he had to say, what he wants to achieve. Also, you might remember I talked last month with Ben Carson. So what I want to do for you right now is I want to play that as well, because it's interesting. I want to play that. Because it's critically important. It's critically important that we're hearing what people are saying. So, okay, some of you said, hey, I missed hearing from Ben. No problem. No problem. I am going to play that for you right now. I want to play that because I want to have this conversation. The question I'm posing to you is, what do you want to hear Republican candidates talking about? Let me say it again. What do you want to hear from Republican candidates? What do you want to hear them talking about? What do you want to hear them talking about? Here's that conversation with Ben Carson, and get your thoughts as well.
What do you believe is the reason why Republican voters, based upon various polls, are taking to your campaign? Political folks say it's because you're appealing to evangelicals. Others say it is your demeanor versus the bluster of a Donald Trump.
Well, one of the things that I've been very impressed with as I go around the country is so many people come up to me and say, I've never voted before, I've never gotten registered before, I've never contributed to a campaign before, and now I feel that maybe there's some integrity in the system. I think that's what's drawing people, because traditional politicians are just that, traditional politicians. They do what is politically expedient as opposed to what is right.
And when you say traditional politicians, it seems as if you are someone who's been a governor, you've been a senator, that based upon various polls, they're looking for somebody who's not been in politics. Do you believe that is a negative, though, in terms of not understanding the political process?
I think there are definite advantages in virtually anything that you do. Where the error is that people assume that in order to have solutions to the complex problems that we are facing, that you have to be. Is experience at solving complex problems. They don't have to necessarily be political problems.
One of the things that we're looking at right now, and we'll deal with it later in this hour, James Blake, he gets tackled by police in New York, mistaking him for somebody else. So then the police union defends those actions, even though the police commissioner blasted them. We're talking about a case out of Houston, Texas, an African-American man driving his own car, going in his driveway. Cops say he stole the car, shoot him, ends his baseball career. That's a former Major League Baseball player. You went to Ferguson over the weekend, meeting with folks there. Your assessment of Black Lives Matter movement and the effect that they have had on forcing America to confront police brutality as well as police corruption.
Okay. Well, what I have said consistently and written about, yes, Black Lives Matter, but I believe all Black Lives matter. And I am very disappointed that the movement doesn't recognize that the carnage in the Black community coming about through institutions like Planned Parenthood and crime upon each other is very significant. And we need to be looking at the things that are keeping the Black community from accelerating, like rotten school systems and, tolerating the drugs that are in our neighborhood.
But also, I believe in staying in your lane. So here you have Black Lives Matter, which is focused on social justice and police accountability. So the question I have for you is, and I get your point, but have you challenged pro-lifers to say, why are you not dealing with these other issues? Why aren't you dealing with the death penalty? So because again, I get organizations, and so if they say this is the focus we wanted to be on, if another group says we want to focus on education, we want to focus on the issue of abortion, what I'm saying is from an organizational standpoint, can't individuals say we want to focus on this as opposed to say it needs to be all encompassing?
But that's my very point. It does have to be all encompassing because, for instance, when you're talking about what's going on in the inner cities with lack of education and with poverty, one of the things that's happening is we have 73% babies being born out of wedlock. Now, I can't just go and tell people, let's make sure that there are no abortions and that we have all these babies around. I got to talk about how do we create a situation where those women can take advantage of child care so that they can get their GED and their associate's degree and their bachelor's degree, and they can learn to be self-sufficient, and they can teach that to their children. Unless you take that whole conglomerate, you're just going to be wasting your time.
But my point is, if you have different organizations focused on different things, I mean, that's what they do. So why are you asking Black Lives Matter movement to say you need to focus on all of this as opposed to what they're focused on? Because here's the reality. In the last year, 40 new laws have been passed in 24 states. They are forcing a conversation that frankly wasn't happening before. And so what they are working on, frankly, has been effective, but you're saying, no, shift it to something else.
What I'm saying is I want them to be successful. And they're going to be a lot more successful if they don't alienate a big part of the community.
Who are alienating in the community?
They're alienating a lot of people who are not Black because what they're hearing is that we're the only ones who are important and nobody else is important.
Who is that?
A lot of people are hearing that.
Yeah, but here's the deal, though.
We don't want them to hear that.
But here's the deal, though. There have been massive demonstrations they've been involved in. And we've seen hundreds of thousands of people. I've seen folks who are African-American, who are Hispanic, who are white. There are people all across the world who are identifying with the movement. So it seems that there are some people who don't like what they are doing, but they are actually forcing a conversation that many others have not been able, not to force a conversation, forcing actual changes that others have not been able to actually do.
When we come back, I am going to play the response of Ben Carson to that question. This is the Roland Martin Show. Back in a moment.
Call 844-736-7474 and talk to Roland Martin next. We'll be back.
Dave, what are you doing?
Just sending a gift to Dave 2037.
Who?
Yo, girl, what's up?
I save a little money from every paycheck as a gift to Dave 2037, so you can spend it on things like anti-gravity boots or a hologram Doberman, something cool like that. I think Dave 2037 deserves it. He worked hard. What are you getting Steve 2037?
I guess I was thinking Steve 2037 would just fend for himself.
Well, all right, but don't expect to be borrowing my anti-gravity boots.
You want to have money in your future? You got to start saving now. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Hey, let's just hope Steve 2037 doesn't get his hands on a cold time machine, because he is going to come back here and knock some sense into you.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
A promise was made. A promise that hit the beaches of Normandy. A covenant that split the skies over Berlin. A vow that captured Iwo Jima. A promise was made. A solemn oath that liberated Seoul. A
a sacred trust that defended Khe Sanh, a pact that dug into Nang, a contract that weathered Tet. A promise was made, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, a bond that patrolled door to door in Fallujah, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans, a promise we all must keep. DAV fights for all veterans and their families so they get the health care, financial benefits, and support they earned. If you're a veteran who needs help or you'd like to help us keep the promise, visit DAV.org.
As I walk this land of broken dreams, I have visions of many ways, but happiness is just an illusion, filled with sadness and confusion. What becomes of the broken hearted who have loved that's now departed? I know I've got to find some kind of peace of mind. Some love all around. Let me they come a tumbling down. Every day heartaches through a little stronger. I can't stand this pain much longer. I walk in the shadows, searching for light. Cold and alone, no comfort inside. Hoping and praying for someone who cares. Always moving and going your way. What becomes of the broken hearted who had love that's now departed? I know I've got to find some kind of peace of mind.
It's time to get back to the issues that matter. Let's get back to the Roland Martin Show.
Welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. The number to call is 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. I'm talking about candidates. I'm talking about Republican candidates. I'm talking about, are they addressing the issues that you want them to confront? Give me a call. Love to get your thoughts, your perspective. 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. I talked today with Senator Rand Paul. I previously talked with Ben Carson, who is actually now at the top of the polls. And here is the rest of my discussion with Ben Carson. And I was asking him the question about Black Lives Matter and asking the question about accountability. And so here we go with the rest of that discussion.
See, and here's the issue. We're probably not even on the opposite sides of this. We want the same things to occur. But in order to do that,
so you're supportive of their calls for police accountability and their calls for better policing, as well as changes in terms of how people are treated by police.
Well, I can't imagine anybody who would be against that. But what we have to start talking about is mutual respect, and that's what I talked about down in Ferguson. You know, the police have to have a different attitude toward the people. And the people need to have a different attitude toward the police. We're never going to resolve this issue if we get into our respective corners and fire grenades at each other. It's just not going to happen.
You talk about mutual respect. That's one of the things that I've said for years that the Republican Party should do. And what's interesting to me is that right now, even on the issue of criminal justice reform, you have leading Republicans who are there on the issue. You have the Koch brothers standing side by side, Van Jones. You would think polar opposites. Yet the party still seems to have a fundamental problem reaching out to, talking with African Americans. What are you telling them as a party they need to do to reach African Americans?
Well, if you've been reading some of my editorials, you know I've been critical of the party for neglecting African Americans, because the assumption is that there's no point, that they're not going to listen anyway, that they're just going to do what the Democrats tell them to do. And I don't believe that to be the case from my own experience. You know, when I am out in public, when I go to an airport, I have a ton of African Americans come and say, "We got your back, we're with you." And I think it's a matter of them actually knowing who you are and recognizing that you're not against them. And what the Republican Party has to do is get into the Black community and actually talk about the programs that will elevate people, not the programs that will keep people in the same place where they've been for decades.
One of the things that when you talk about that from a policy standpoint, if you are, bottom line is, look, our audience is African American. Why should African Americans, and you go to the primary, people can actually vote in the Republican or Democratic primary. Why should an African American who may very well vote Democrat cross a party line to vote for you for president?
Well, if they will actually listen to what I'm saying and not what people say that I'm saying.
But we're talking to them right now.
Listen to what I'm saying and not what people are saying what I'm saying. Go back and look at my life. Look at what I do. Look at the way that we put, for instance, reading rooms in areas where there are Title I schools, so we can change the trajectory of young people, because 70 to 80% of people who drop out of high school are functionally illiterate. And if we can get them to have a love for reading early on, it dramatically changes the course of their life. These are the kinds of things that make a difference in people's lives. You know, read my books and see the things that I've talked about. How in the Black community, for instance, we take the money, $1 trillion in the Black community. There's only 10 or less countries in the world.
I mean, the consumer spending power of African Americans.
There's only 10 or less countries in the world that have that kind of money. And if we learn how to turn those dollars over a few times before we send them out and create wealth and then reach back and pull others along with you, we have got to do that, and to stop listening to the people who are trying to divide us. You know, they want to divide us into conservatives and liberals and Republicans and Democrats, rather than using our collective ability and strength to solve our problems.
One of the things that has been a major part of this campaign has been all the media's attention on the entertainer Donald Trump. And he's taken a couple of shots at you, saying you questioned his faith. One, did you do that? And two, do you believe that the bluster, the bragging, and all of that is frankly unpresidential and doesn't really speak to the issues that Americans care about?
Well, there's no question that we have very different temperaments. And I had no intention of questioning his faith or anybody's. I was really talking about me and what motivates me and drives me. And I probably shouldn't have added the phrase, "I don't get that impression with him." But, you know.
But if you don't get that impression with him, that's where you've been honest.
Right. But, you know, that was then immediately spun by the media as Carson attacks him. And of course, he took the bait and said, "Oh, he's attacking me." So, you know, and I'm a person who feels that what we really need to be doing is using our intellect and our God-given abilities to solve our problems, rather than to become pugilistic and getting down in the mud and doing things that are completely irrelevant.
He says that you will not be able to negotiate with China. You need someone who, frankly, is going to be strong and have the energy to negotiate with America, with other superpowers.
Well, I wonder how many times he's had to negotiate with people over complex problems like the ones that I've had to deal with. I wonder how many times he's had to work in different school districts around the country to get people on board with bringing in the scholarship fund, who were not on board with it originally because it wasn't their ideal. I've spent plenty of time involved in that, plenty of time understanding the world of business. I understand the world of business extremely well. 18 years on the Kellogg board, 16 years on Costco's board, chairman of the board of a biotech company, Vaccinogen, starting a national scholarship fund, 9 of 10 of which fail. Ours not only didn't fail, it's in all 50 states and has won 2 major national awards that are only given to one organization each year out of tens of thousands. That requires the ability to do a lot of things. And, I think it's pretty narrow-minded when somebody says, well, he's a neurosurgeon, so he only knows how to do medicine. That's pretty stupid.
About 30 seconds now. We've got a debate coming up on Wednesday. Do we expect you to come out throwing punches, or are you going to be just like a surgeon, just sort of ease in there?
I'm going to be me. You can expect me to be like me, listen carefully, give reasoned responses. I think people might be a little surprised to find out the depth of knowledge.
All right, Dr. Ben Carson, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Roland.
All right, so that was Ben Carson on the show. So, again, the question I'm posing to you is, and I asked this question of Paul and others, do you believe that the Republicans should participate in a forum that specifically speaks to African American issues? Should these Republican candidates address issues, housing, voting rights, prison industrial complex, criminal justice, Black Lives Matter movement? Yes or no? And I got a guy on here saying, why single out one race? So why are they talking to Latinos? Why have issue-driven forums? The reality is we live in a niche, we live in the world of niche politics. I'm just not confused. I'm real clear about who we are as a country. Real clear about what we do and what we stand for. So the number to call is 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. Do you believe that the Republicans should have a Black Issues Forum? 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. Give me a call. I want to chat with you right now. It's time to go to a break. This is the Roland Martin Show. Back in a moment. Yeah, folks, we're watch partying.
Call Call 844-736-7474 and talk to Roland Martin next. We'll be back.
I'm a third grade teacher.
I'm a school bus driver.
I am a parent.
I am a teacher's aide. And I agree to be identified as a caring adult who pledges to help bullied students.
I will listen carefully to all students who seek my help
and act on their behalf
to put an immediate stop to bullying.
I will work with other caring adults to create a safe learning environment for all the students in my school. In my school.
In my school.
In my school.
I'm Dennis Van Rokel, president of the National Education Association. Help us create safe, bully-free learning environments for all students. One caring adult can make all the difference. Be that adult and take the pledge at NEA.org/bullyfree. Adults have the power to stop bullying in our schools.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
Bully free. It starts with me.
Visit NEA.org/bullyfree. A message from the National Education Association.
Drifting on a memory, ain't no place I'd rather be than with you. Yeah, loving you. Well. Day will make a way for night. All we'll need is candlelight and a song. Yeah, soft and long. Well, glad to be here alone with a lover unlike no other. Sad to see a new horizon slowly coming into view. Yeah, I wanna be living for the love of you. Oh, yes, I am.
That is about the dumbest comment I've ever heard in my life. That's why I don't listen to radio, always going to commercials. We have 11 and a half minutes of talk, a 3-minute commercial break, another 11 and a half minutes, then a 3-minute commercial break, then another 11 and a half minutes, then a commercial break, then another 11 and a half minutes. We literally have 46 minutes of talk, and you whining about commercial. How do you think the show is paid for? How do you think so we should just do radio for free because you don't want to hear any commercials? You know how dumb that is? So how you think you actually get to hear the radio show? Well, fool, the satellite got commercials too. Well, I tell you, some folks just dumb. Some folks just dumb. You don't want to hear commercials. But as an engineer, it's a board operator, it's a person answering the phones. All those folks got to eat, but you ain't trying to hear no commercials because, oh, Lord. And right, you pay for satellite anyway. But you ain't paying for free radio. Hilarious. All right, folks, welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. Number to call is 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. Do you believe the Republicans? I just played for you Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul. I played for you Dr. Ben Carson. All of that. I played all of that for you. Do you believe Republicans should have a reform that specifically that deals with black issues? Let's go to Louise in Atlanta. You're on Roland Martin Show. How you doing? I'm doing great. What's your comment?
My comment is, first of all, thank you for having this
Party,
and
watch your mouth or you're going to get blocked.
But I just want to tell you,
we don't allow that language on my timeline.
The Republicans and what they need to do, yes, they need to come. They need to have a forum. They need to
okay, Change. Why you all upset now? I love Roland, but damn.
Problems that are in
what's
our
the problem?
neighborhoods and in our community.
Jeez.
And not
folks
just
complain about commercials. How you gonna pay for the shows?
They need to hear the people speak, and they need to realize that what's going on out here in America today.
I'm rough. No,
economics is low for everyone, and they need to stop having their own.
I got no filter. I cut to the chase.
They want to do. It's just not working.
So, but here's the issue for me. This is the big issue for me. We're talking about this here. Republicans control more than 30 states in the country.
Yeah.
So my deal is, we better be engaging in conversation. Because we cannot see, you know what's interesting? The Chamber of Commerce, if a Republican is in office or Democrats in office, they're gonna work with them.
Yeah.
If the NRA, Republican, Democrat, don't matter. Every other group understands I've got to deal with whoever's in power. Black folks cannot check out of the process. Because we say, well, I voted Democrat and person Republican, so I'll see you in 4 years. No.
No, and we cannot do that. We can't do that. We do have to be knowledgeable, even on the local levels, as to what's going on in our neighborhoods and going on with
don't cuss like that again. You'll get blocked.
Republicans and Democrats on both sides. We've got to. It's a bipartisan issue these days. It's not just one-sided. We can no longer, as African Americans, vote just because it's a Democrat. We can't do that.
Well, but see again though.
That's how I feel about it.
But again though, if we vote, here's my point. We can vote for a Democrat, fine. We can vote for a Democrat, no problem. But what I'm saying is, if the Democrat loses, then we still need to deal with the Republican who's in office. And what I'm saying is, these folks want to be president of the United States. And let's remember, President George W. Bush, Republican. President George H.W. Bush, Republican. President Ronald Reagan, Republican. We cannot check out of the process. And that, for me, is the problem. That, for me, is the problem. All righty then. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Louise. All right, folks, give me a call, 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. I just, ooh, it irks me. It irks me when we don't believe that we should be demanding of all candidates. Well, hang up and call. We should be demanding that. And y'all need to understand something. That's just one of the reasons why. For me, I'm all about reaching every single person. Every person. Every person. We're reaching out to all of them. Carly Fiorina. She needs to be on the show. Sure enough. 100%. 100%. John Kasich on the show. 100%. I get online because you want to be president. Speak to all Americans. Is it Kenyatta? Kenyatta, you on the Roland Martin Show. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Your biggest fan. I'm always following you everywhere. I just wanted to let you know that you're my biggest inspiration, and I just love what you're doing. But my main thing is I want to let a lot of Black people know that we're not obligated to just one particular party. And the Republican Party has not done anything or said anything that has addressed any of the issues that really affect us.
Not true.
Yes, of course, the unemployment
No.
and all of that.
Kenyatta, hold up. I got Kenyatta. I'm sorry. I got to correct you. That's not true. No, here's why. And again, this is not for me about defending one party or the other. For me, on this show, my position is if I know something is not true, then I'm just going to go and say it. So this is what a major civil rights leader told me in 2012. He said, Roland, we've gotten more support from Republican governors on the issue of criminal justice reform and sentencing than we have from Democrats. Now, that's an it. Gotcha. Now, here's the deal. That's an issue. I can tell you as somebody who supports school choice, I can tell you there are some Republicans who have been advocates of that. And then you got a ton of Black kids in Florida who are participating in the opportunity scholarships. That's just one issue. There are specific issues where Republicans stepped up and were there. Is it a party? No. Is it a party-wide sentiment? No. Are we battling Republicans in these states on voter suppression? Yes, we are. But there are issues where Republicans have voted the right way. I just think that what has to happen is we have to make more of a demand on them to do more. That's what I think has to happen. Go right ahead.
I would really like for them to speak more on, of course, police brutality. That's the main thing that I would, for just one little inkling, just for one person, just to bring it up or mention it, because it's really affecting our community. And right now I have a son that's 4 months old, and I'm like really concerned about definitely what kind of school he goes to. But just
do me a favor. Hold on one second. I'm going to a break. I want you to finish that point. We come back. All right, folks, give me a call 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. Do you believe Republicans should participate in a Black Issues Forum? This is the Roland Martin Show. Back in a moment. If you want to do,
it's all right with me. 'Cause you make me feel so brand new. I want to spend my life with you. We say
things, baby.
Since we've been together,
Ooh, loving you forever
is what I need. Let me be the one you come running to. I'll never be untrue. Oh, baby, let's stick together. Loving you weather. Times are good and bad, happy or sad. Yeah. Yeah, the times are good.
It's time to get back to the issues that matter. Let's get back to the Roland Martin Show.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Roland Martin Show. Number to call is 844-736-7474, 844-736-7474. Do you believe that Republicans, do you believe that they should they have a Black Issues Forum? Speaking to our issues. All right, let's go back to Kenyatta. I'm sorry, Kenyatta. Got it. Okay, cool. All right, go ahead. Okay. All right. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Be sure to call back again. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Let's go to Gabriel in Denver. Gabriel, you're on the Roland Martin Show. Hey, Gabriel. Sorry. Doing great.
Good to hear. Well, I think absolutely the Republican Party should have some kind of outreach program or outreach message when it comes to issues in the Black community. I think their biggest problem is they're on the wrong side when it comes to the war on drugs. I think until they come to the right side of that, there's going to be a disconnect.
Okay. All right. Why?
Well, just because the way the system is set up, you look at the statistics, you look at what former policemen are saying. Yeah, people in the Black community are targeted. They're targeted when it comes to drugs. They face harsher penalties. And I think if you take away that risk altogether for all people, all citizens in the country, then they can focus more on, other things like security in schools, things like that, instead of trying to chase their targeted demographic. And it just doesn't look good for them when they're ignoring all of these issues. They're not talking about it at all.
Well, and I'm just not talking about it. It's they're also critical issues, and then by bringing them up, frankly, I mean, look, there's stuff I'm going to bring up. I'm telling you right now, Jake Tapper not going to bring up, Anderson Cooper's not going to bring up, Fox Business News not, but they ain't going to bring it up. CNBC not going to bring it up. They're not. They're going to talk about all that.
Issues like this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But again, though, it's very funny. I had one woman on Periscope who said that, my concern they're not going to follow through. But that's why we have to stay on it for them to follow through. See, the mistake that people keep making, the mistake they keep making is, I voted, what you going to do? No, voting is the end of one process. Then you have another process. So voting is the end of one. Then it's the follow through. That's the other. Every other group, they are out there. Let me tell you something. Immigration reform folks were putting major pressure on President Obama. They were putting that heat on President Obama. LGBT folks were putting that heat on him because it wasn't just what you said you were going to do. They said, we're going to hold your feet to the fire and make sure you do what you're supposed to do.
Well, that's what politicians are. They're supposed to act on behalf of the people, and they're not. And we need to start making them understand, either you do or you're not going to stick around.
Gotcha. Absolutely. I just think that people get, I just think that what happens is we want the check out of the process and we figure, I did my part. I'm all good. I can move on. No problem. No. You got to stay on that thing. You got to stay.
I mean, as dumb as Donald Trump is, the reason why people are still paying attention to him is because people are paying attention to him. They're talking about him. It's in the conversation. If we start getting more people talking with each other, with their friends, their family, their coworkers about what's important to them, then it's going to have an effect. And politicians are going to see that.
Yep. No, absolutely. All right, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, then. Folks, give me a call so I can hear from you. Love to hear from you. Number to call, 844-736-7474. 844-736-7474. So, we're covering this presidential campaign, and I play for you these comments by Ben Jealous. Excuse me, not Ben Jealous, Ben Carson. By Ben Carson. And also Senator Rand Paul. We appreciate having the conversation. Now, what was interesting is that Ben Carson, what he's done, he's released a radio ad. That is very interesting, that explores his campaign. So what he's doing is he released this ad and is targeting black voters. I can try to cue this thing up. I want to play it for y'all. And so Mediaite has a piece said Ben Carson releases rapping radio ad aimed at African Americans. So let's see how Ben Carson, and this ad is running in major metro markets like Miami, Memphis, as well as Detroit. Okay, y'all ready? Here we go.
Vote, inspire. Vote, revive. Vote, Ben Carson 2016. Vote and support Ben Carson for our next president to be awesome.
America became a great nation early on, not because it was flooded with politicians, but because it was flooded with people who understood the value of personal responsibility, hard work, creativity, innovation, and that's what will get us on the right track now. I'm very hopeful that I'm not the only one who's willing to pick up the baton of freedom, because freedom is not free and we must fight for it every day. Every one of us must fight for it because we're fighting for our children and the next generation.
If we want to get America back on track, we got to vote Ben Carson. A matter of fact, go out and vote.
I'm Ben Carson, and I approve this message. Paid for by Carson America.
All right, so, okay, some of y'all are like, I can't believe this. First of all, y'all, This ain't the first rapping radio commercial. It ain't the first rapping radio commercial. It ain't the first one. Ain't gonna be the last one. It is what it is. So that's the deal. So, you know, so I ain't tripping. Okay, got you. I got it. You know, understand. So there you go. Also, Senator Bernie Sanders, gave an interview with NPR, and he talked about a lot of things. But one of the things that he said is point blank is that right now he's losing among African Americans. But he says he gonna win with the black vote. Here's Bernie.
Nominee.
There are differences of opinion, significant differences of opinion between Hillary Clinton and myself.
Sanders said that during a long conversation here in Washington. He was in his Senate office in a room with a Vermont tourism poster on the wall.
The presidential candidate had a summer of dramatic news. The self-described Democratic Socialist drew huge crowds with his attack on billionaires and corporations.
He's had an autumn of subtle disappointment, wrong-footed more than once by the party's frontrunner, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Do you feel that you're on a path to win?
I do.
Sanders insists he has raised the money and enthusiasm to overcome Clinton's huge advantages. Yet as we talked, it was clear Sanders knows the question for voters is why it should be him instead of her.
I have tried to run a very, very positive campaign because I respect Hillary Clinton and I like Hillary Clinton. I've known her for 25 years. And I do not want this to look like the Republican campaign where it looks like a food fight and they look like children. We have real issues. We have real differences. For example, I believe that our current campaign finance law makes the